on this computer, and then I'll share it later. I don't know. All right. So a couple of just housekeeping items. I have been teaching on Zoom with my students. So I've been finding that it's really helpful to mute ourselves and then unmute when you want to chat. I think a group, if we stay this size, I can see everybody right now, and you can just put your finger up if you want to share, and then I'll kind of say, yes, go ahead, and you can unmute yourself and share. If a bunch of other people show up and we can't all see each other on one screen, you can always go down to the bottom at the participants window and raise your hand there, and that'll show up and I can see that you would like to say something, and I can use that to call on you. The chats are open, so they're open publicly as well as privately. If somebody brings something up and you want to kind of just address them individually, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, you might as well share your thoughts, questions, or resources with the whole group. Lynn will be on that, and she will be kind of taking notes, and if there's something that we can address, maybe not today, but at a later time, we will get back to you on that. And that, yeah, that's our kind of our housekeeping. We do have a little agenda for the day. I'm going to share my screen and show you what we're going to be doing. And Lynn's also put that down in the chat in case you want to refer to that later. Where am I? Firefox. Okay. All right. So here we are. Welcome, Basic Housekeeping. We're going to start out with, in a moment here, with a conversation. We did collect all of our survey results that we put out this past month, and kind of collated them to kind of take a snapshot of where people are around the county. And some folks wanted to see those results, and I think it's helpful for everybody to know kind of where they are in the like ecosystem of school gardens right now. So we'll just kind of briefly look at that, and that will be shared with you, and that's going to be available for you to look at in more detail another time if you'd like. I want to also talk a little bit about how we're going to be sharing resources right now and our strategy, and also open that up for suggestions from the group. I noticed when I was looking through the survey results that there are a lot of people doing a lot of different things, and a lot of people who are creating their own content. So having been part of the School Garden Network for a long time and met a lot of you many times, I know how incredibly resourceful every single one of you are. And so the best way that we can try and share those resources and share our lessons and talk about how to do that, I think that'll be really helpful for everybody. And then we'll kind of dive into 3 different examples of different kind of virtual learning models we're doing right now. We have Shoivia, who's gonna be talking about this online content she's creating. It's beautiful. Sue McQuitty is creating content and then sharing that with their teachers to use. And then I'll talk a little bit about my kind of virtual classes that I'm doing right now. At the end, we will maybe discuss specific virtual gathering topics. And then if there are any community announcements, then we can share that at that time. Okay, does that sound good? Great, all right. So, kind of wanted to talk from just briefly and just share a little update on School Garden Network right now. As pretty much everybody, we've kind of been in a little bit of a pivot. This is the word of the year, it seems like. Since March, we have found ourselves with a little limited funding and a limited human resources. So we're kind of trying to figure out the best way to stretch our dollar and capacity to support schools. And this is kind of our first step out into this new school year, into what does the school year look like for us, for School Garden Network and supporting our schools. You know, pretty much all of our school programs that we have been doing are on pause. And so we hope to resume that by the spring and kick off some good fundraisers in the near future. And until then, we're kind of really focusing on hearing where schools are at and meeting people where they are right now. And what it seems to us is that a lot of the needs right now are kind of how to do this virtually, how to get some of those like materials in our hands, and then how to get some help in the garden to keep it going without students in the garden doing it with you. And the best way we know how to support you is by communicating, by taking our surveys, and by responding to kind of requests out there, and so that we know where you are. And we remain dedicated to equity education. We really, you know, alongside of this, there's been so much conversation around our work in every single field and how can we achieve equity and in school gardens. And we feel like that's a really big part of why we do what we do. And so we just want to continue to put out there, like, we're trying to meet every single school as much as we can, in the interest of serving all of our students and youth in our communities. So just kind of wanted to make sure that that was always kind of at the heart of who we are and what we do. Okay. I always feel it's so weird. I ask my students to like mute, and then it feels very strange to not have any like chatter or feedback or anything. It's very odd. So, okay, hi. All right, so we kind of wanted to start with talking about the survey that we put out there and give you guys just a little moment to kind of take a look at some of the responses I'm going to share. I put it in a document here. Virtual gallery, survey results. There we go. All right. So we had 18 people or 28 people that took our survey. There were 2 people that were not in virtual full distance learning mode. And of those 28, I kind of went through and just tried to pop in some numbers to show kind of a meta view of like what people are doing. So it's clear that most people are still tending to the garden on campus. And then from there, there's a kind of a fairly even distribution of how they're accessing students or providing education. As well as what the curriculum looks like that they're using. Some is gleaned, some is created, some is modified from previous years, and all of it is challenging. This I thought was pretty interesting. It says, what educational platform are you using? And I couldn't even collate the responses because there were just so many, which said to me, oh my gosh, like, how in the world are we supposed to effectively do this when this is all of the material, and we're usually teaching like in the garden. So going from like teaching life in the garden to trying to convey that through all of these digital platforms, to me makes me go, okay, like this is really challenging. We had a kind of an interesting distribution of the teaching support that people are after right now. And this is what this is kind of always my question and has been my real big curiosity of this school year, like what's happening to employment? What has been the state of employment for garden educators, and then what's happening this year, and how do we avoid losing all staff that have been paid in schools? And it's always been our mantra, and one of my biggest talking points is like, we need to put the money there. Like if we have to have school buy-in, we have to have paid employees. And so this is something that I think we're going to be trying to dig deeper into this year. Like, what is the employment status and how is that working? And how are these programs continuing to have sustainability in their schools? Lots of people would love some seeds, compost, and curriculum. Pretty good. Or plants, plants, compost, and curriculum. So that's interesting. And then we had a couple of other just conversational pieces around other needs. And one of the things that I thought very fascinating was something that I've been struggling with as a teacher is what do my kids need? What do they have? What's the best way I can serve them? So so that's kind of where I think maybe we can start a conversation now, is just like thinking about those needs and what you're doing, and the best way you can serve your community of students. So with that, I would love to hear anything that's jumping out at you want to share, ask, thoughts, or responses. Sue McQuitty.
I'll just share real quickly what I did in the spring and through the summer in the community to the question about getting students what they need and families what they need when it comes to food. Because that's part of what we do in the garden, of course, is we want to, teach healthy eating and get families to eat more healthy food, right? So I was in a situation where we had started hundreds of tomato plants. I had from seedlings. I had 2 different schools, 3 different grade levels, and 2 large schools. I had over 700 plants. We weren't able to get approval to distribute them to the kids at some of the schools, which was really sad. It was principal dependent kind of thing. So I looked for other opportunities. So I was able to disperse them through the weekly lunchbox program at a couple schools. So I was just part of the line when cars drove up and picked up their boxes. We had put it out on my Google Classroom, so we had communication that way. And we got a couple hundred plants into kids' hands that way. And then the rest of them, I got into the community through the food bank. Mm-hmm. So just, those are things I did.
Thank you. Have other schools been successful in sharing their produce with their families? Does anybody want to share about that? Mary?
We didn't do anything in the spring. They wouldn't let us give anything to the kids, but this school year, they've been letting me harvest what I grow in the garden and put it out in boxes and bags. It's like things that are loose, like tomatoes. They want me to have them bagged up in a little sandwich bag and labeled with what it is. And then things like a zucchini, I can just kind of set out in a box and the people can grab them. And so I've been harvesting every Friday and putting them out on a table in front of the school. And then the kids and their families can come and pick up produce if they want. Friday is also the day they pick up library books from our school library and other materials. So they're already coming to get various things. So it's just like another one of those options. They can grab some veggies while they're there.
That's awesome. Thank you. Heather, were you raising your hand as well? Do you have something to share?
Yeah, so on Tuesdays at Guerneville School, we have the Redwood Empire Food Bank come and hand out food to the community. And so I've been harvesting on Mondays and Tuesdays and handing out as much produce as possible to families that are waiting in line for for food from the food bank. And then a lot of times it's not even our students, it's just families in the community that are in need. And we know, like in Guerneville, things are really tough. So just being able to do that feels really good.
And are you in the yard harvesting? Do you have volunteers, or how are you getting the food from garden to?
It's just me.
It's just you
right now. Yeah. So I'm just I'm harvesting and then bagging up produce, into little paper like little lunch paper bags, as many of those bags as I can do, as equally as possible, spread out for the produce being spread out as equally as possible. And then I just hand them out until they're gone.
Yeah.
Thank
you so much, Heather. Nancy, do you have something to share what you're doing? You're muted.
I'm unmuting.
Yeah,
back to the screen.
Yeah.
I actually, at our garden, we have a production gardener, and they identified some families that were families headed by single mothers who were low income. We did that through ECC, which is our partner, Extended Childcare. They're our overarching nonprofit that's over Community Soil Foundation. I'm with Community Soil Foundation. And they also, Lavelle Village, which is near the school, which is a low-income housing development, food was taken there. So that was facilitated by our production gardener, Eris. So I can't take credit for that, but it did happen.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Carla, hi.
So like everybody else, I'm harvesting alone on Wednesdays. And that's a bit of a challenge because, I've got to get around my kids' school schedules in addition to when teachers are on campus. But I'm mostly harvesting
for staff and teachers. And I put out everything the garden has that I can pick by myself. I have a fig tree that I can never keep up with, but it's going well. And then families come periodically throughout the week. Teachers have different times for them to pick up materials.
Mhm.
So they're welcome to take anything from the tables then. I've already run out of strawberry baskets that I was putting things in that I had saved up for our farm stand when we did it during the school year. So now it's just big boxes and people take what they want. And it's been going well enough, you know.
That's really great. I know that I kind of planted in the spring intent, like fully expecting that we'd be back in session in the fall. However, I think I'm shifting my thoughts right now to putting the beds to rest for this school year and cover cropping. I'm just wondering, are people doing similar, or are you planting for food production right now to distribute? And also my next question related is, has anybody contacted Farm to Pantry? Because I know that they are gleaning right now and getting a lot of food to shelters or Redwood Empire. Anybody want to share a response to any of those questions? Ziva, is that how you pronounce your names?
Yeah, Ziva.
Hi.
So yeah, I've decided this year this season, we're going to plant out all our garden beds for our local food bank as well, and then teaching the kids. So our third graders are the farmers at our school. So even though we're still distance learning, they're going to learn more about giving back rather than, having the food themselves. And then also what I did is I had posted on Nextdoor. I'm sure everybody has Nextdoor in different areas, asking for seed donations. And then I packeted seeds and then sent it home with for the kids to use, so that I could, while I'm in the garden, I could show them what to do, and then they can go and do it afterwards.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Cool. Is there any other last thoughts about this topic before I move on? I wanted to just touch on how we're sharing resources right now. Sue?
I just wanted to say that for those interested in cover crop, LaBallesters just donated a lot of cover crop seed to us to distribute to school gardens. So look out in the next week. I'm going to be Lynn and I will send some stuff out, and we're going to get you guys 2 different types of cover crop for your beds if you're interested.
Yay, thank you. Yeah. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Laurel? You're muted. Laurel, you're muted. You have to unmute. Okay.
Sorry, I read it wrong. I volunteer at the Community Seed Exchange, and I'm sure we'll have extra seeds in the spring. And we do have fava beans, so I'll make sure Sue gets fava beans for eating, and they can be distributed with the cover crop now. And but early spring, we can figure something out for free seeds.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Love the seed exchange. Shlevia.
Yeah, on the topic of seeds, I also distributed seeds to about 170 students at both of the schools. And I did that through the teachers. So I had them, if they were interested in me, and then I packed them. And I think that I may do the school garden seed saving space, so whether or not I use a lot of, of the vegetables, at least I'm going to gather seeds, because seeds were running short in the fall, or actually in the spring, right? And so I thought, gosh, that's actually kind of valuable more than vegetables at this point. And I have so many seeds. So that's an idea.
Yeah.
Let everything go to seed. Don't even, tend to it too much.
Yeah, and then collect them. That's a good thought. Lynn, thank you.
I'm going to put on my volunteer garden coordinator hat. I'm wondering, Shwavia, if you heard did the students use the seeds? Did you get any feedback? Because I have all these seeds that I could gather and the kids could keep, but should I do that? Or should I keep them and save them for the future? Or is it worth it to try to get it into the hands of the kids? Do you feel like it was worth it, kind of?
Well, so that I did, instead of going ahead and processing seeds, you know how timely, you know, that is, I just kind of put in whole pods and, you know, just little tufts of lettuce. And I gave them an instruction video of how to process them. So I figured that that was a little bit of handwork they could do at home, spend that time. And then I don't know if they're going to succeed or what. I gave them an instruction demonstration of how to plant seeds. And I know they're excited. I know that.
Cool.
So I figured even if nothing grows, there was excitement.
That's
you know,
great.
and they were like, I got purple broccoli. And, you know, some of the students were saying, can I get seeds? And the teachers were like, well, you got to get all your other work too. You know, they didn't pick up their work, but all they were asking about was the seeds. So
I love that. I love when the
figure
parents
it's worth
are like
it.
getting
It's
all the
worth
attention. It's like, yeah, you know.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have all these bean seeds and that's fun and they're big and colorful and fun. So
Cool.
Yeah, but given that they can't grow those right now.
right.
So I only gave them stuff that would work now.
Oh, okay.
Because I just know that they want to do it and they can't wait until, you know, May. I mean, that's not,
Right.
you know, I mean, I don't think they will. You know,
They're not going to be like us and put it in a glass jar and
don't
Google
think so.
goggle all at it until, yeah, okay. That's a good point. Okay. Thank you.
Mary, did you have something to share?
Did you just call on me? Okay. Yeah, I also gave out seeds in the spring, mostly sunflower seeds that I had collected from our sunflowers at the school. And I have gotten like little pictures. We have a school Facebook page. And so I get little pictures sometimes of the kids with their sunflowers, and some of them grew. I also gave out some vegetable seeds and various kinds that we had, and I got some pictures back. But one of the things with our population is not all of them have access to a garden space.
Yeah.
Like some of them are in apartments and they have nothing, maybe a little porch area, but no ground that they can plant into. And I feel like they all really love the garden and love growing things and being connected with that. And I'm really interested in being able to send home little pots and soil and seeds at some point during this year that the kids could plant in, even if they're, you know, it's just growing in their kitchen by the window or something. Like giving them, I do instructional videos for things. And so I could give them a video on how to plant their seed and take care of it and watch over it. But I'm just wondering if you guys, this could be something that you maybe think of later on, if you know sources of inexpensive, like the materials. I have 480 students, so it's a lot of money to buy everybody a little pot and get them all soil and seeds. So that's something I'm interested in if you guys have connections.
Yeah, I've definitely run that through in my head too in the spring. I was like, I just want to get everybody with the same capacity to grow in the same way, and not allow for more discrepancy and inequities in education. So it's definitely been a very relevant topic that I've been thinking about and hope to talk about in a little bit. Misty, and then maybe we can move on. I just do want to do really quickly before we start with our brief presenters, how we're collecting resources, just so that everybody knows, or we can possibly also talk about that at the end if there's time, but I want to make sure we do talk about that. So, but Misty, what did you want to share?
Well, I'm going to do a similar project with have the kids grow some seeds, but I'm going to encourage them to recycle something they already have at home, like a yogurt cup or an egg carton or something like that, instead of going out and buying a bunch of pots, plastic pots. I would encourage just to repurpose something they already have. I did the bean growing project where you put the beans in a plastic baggie and a wet paper towel. I did that for all 450 students at Oak Grove Elementary School. And it was amazing. The kindergartners through 5th grade all participated, and they hung their seeds up in their window or put it in a sunny spot. And I'm getting all these emails going, my seeds are sprouting, my seeds are sprouting. So it's just, that's how I'm looking at teaching my year, is starting with how a plant starts. And then I'm going to progress up until we get to the flower, and then we go back around to the seed.
Mhm.
That's my big plan.
Yeah. There are some good comments coming in the chat, just to make sure everybody's keeping your eye on that. I also think that like if you're doing an activity like oh, I'm gonna do a little video on how to reuse a yogurt container or something, then that's something that'd be super wonderful and super global that we could share with everybody. And so with your permission, I'd like to really quickly just talk about how that might work. First of all, we are trying really hard to kind of think through the best platform on our website for sharing and organizing, because I know I've done so much scouring of the internet of curriculum and units and lesson plans and activities and things that are not organized well. Just I can't even spend the time dealing with, and I'm sure everybody feels that the time is so essential. So we're really trying to figure out like how can we just organize it by grade level, topic, and make it simple for like materials. Like if it has a list of 20 materials, like I'm already just not even gonna read it. It's too much. So that's our intention. We're not there yet. So, but we don't wanna, we still wanna be gathering resources because everybody needs them right now. So there's a couple places where you can share. First of all, and I'm gonna share my screen and take you on a little tour here. First is, let me move this. Where's my way? If you go to our website and go to our homepage, you can scroll down here and there is this garden-based distance learning resources. There's two tabs I want to point out. One is this one, and it's the list. And this one here is to submit. So first, if we open the submit, this is gonna, I'm signed in, so it's gonna look different for me than it will look for you. But this is where you can share basic, like overarching kind of websites, website links and things like that, and provide a little extra information about it. The list itself is currently in this format, and it's not most user-friendly, but at some point we will be calling this and making this on more of a online, on our website resources. But this is what's here. And I would love for anybody at the end of today to take a moment and just whatever you're using, pop it in here and make that available. The other place that is really a great interactive spot is if you keep scrolling down, there's our School Garden Network Google group. If you aren't a part of that group yet, then we would love for you to join and have conversation. There are labels. So when you are posting a topic or question, you can tag it with different labels so that people can then search. And this is really helpful, especially when we get so much content. If you want to go in and ask a question, you can first search and see if that's already been asked. And you can do that by using those labels and then searching by label topics. So, so for the moment, I would say those are our most relevant resource sharing. We love videos, instructional videos. We hope to make just a nice list on our website. So if you have a video, but it's not living in a shareable platform, like it's not on a website that's open, if it's owned currently by your school district, maybe thinking about getting permissions to share and making that more public, and then we can be the housing clearinghouse for that kind of information. That's part of one of our goals, is just to be the network of all that information. And then finally, we have our Facebook group, and the Google group is kind of we're trying to kind of move our Facebook conversation into a Google group just for security and also for comfort. And a lot of people are moving away from being on Facebook, and I think that's a legitimate social move to make. So we would like to honor that that transition and conversation to Google groups. And then even though it's not perfect, it's still available. And then Lynn points out we do have a YouTube channel, so we can also post our videos and push our videos there with full credits to whoever created the content. We're not trying to take content, we're just trying to share it with everybody. Okay, so are there any quick questions about resource sharing? Or you can also follow up if you have a load of content that you want to share. You can follow up with one of us about the best way to do that. Okay. Cool. So Shoibi was so graceful and willing to share this incredible website she's created. It has beautiful videos. I was so excited, it inspired me, and I'm excited to learn more about it. And so I'm going to let her share a little bit what she's doing, and then you can ask some questions of her. Take it away.
Hi. So yeah, my name is Shoivia, and I work for both the Sebastopol schools, Brookhaven and Parkside. So when the whole shutdown started in the spring, my supervisor said, can you make some videos for the kids, some garden videos? And then you know how it's hard to send a video, you can't email it, they're always big files. So it's sort of like, how do I do this? And then she said, you can make a Google site. And she gave me an instruction video. And it's actually pretty easy to make a Google site. I was surprised. It was not hard at all. The one thing is that you do need to make a YouTube page, because that's how you upload your videos. So, the Google site will link to a YouTube video, which my kids were excited about. Like, you're going to be famous YouTuber. I was like, we'll see. Anyways, so I went ahead and just did it, got it started. I went to the School Garden Network resource list, and I went to every one of those links. It's definitely, kind of time intensive to do that. And then I shared content and resources that seemed good for everyone to have. And that's when I kind of started realizing there was this extra challenge with this time, which is that you don't just get curriculum and then just share it straight back to the students, right? You have to get the curriculum, process it, and then present it to them as a teacher. They can't read the curriculum. So it's actually like another step now with, getting it to them. So I picked the ones that are doable for them at home, right? Probably a little parent help is needed, honestly, with most of these, because you need material. So that's kind of a little bit of the challenge of this, is that when you're making the videos and you're picking your curriculum, what can they really do at home? What are they going to have? How much help do they need? So that's kind of where I was at the spring. And then when the fall started, I decided to get a little more scheduled with it and post every week, because I was just kind of posting whenever, and it just felt like there was no routine with it. So I post on a weekly basis, and I asked the teachers to send their students there once a week, kind of with a garden time. Either the teachers can visit the site with the students on their Zoom, or they can send them there. So I would say one of the challenges about this way of just making a website and putting it out there is that you're kind of in a black hole. I don't know who's looking at the website. I don't know. I'm not getting a lot of feedback. So it's just kind of, I have people have said, oh, it's a beautiful website, I love it, but I'm still not exactly sure what people are really looking at or doing. So if, I would just recommend, if anybody is going to try this format of making a website to have teachers send their students, try to get some sort of method of feedback. Otherwise you will feel a little like, is there any point of this? What's happening? I'm in a black hole. On the plus side of it, I'm organizing my garden curriculum really well. Like if I ever had to, I have it all spelled out on this website, right? I could go back to it. I mean, potentially if you had a sick day, you could have a teacher in the future just press play on one of your videos. I mean, it's kind of neat in that way. I've got some content. If I ever wanted to switch out of my job, I could say, hey, look at the website. You got everything you need there. So that's nice. It's a way to organize. And then let's see, I think, what else do I want to say about it? Coming up with ways to engage the students with the website. One idea that I had recently was that if they send me pictures of their gardening, I can post them on the website. They always love that, to be kind of in the spotlight of some way. So that's kind of, I think, coming up next to get them engaged. And then I do a lot of cooking during my actual garden class. So that's something that I think is kind of, I've gotten pretty good at. I have a lot of different cooking projects. I do a cooking project kind of every other week, or maybe twice a month, I would say, with the kids, which is kind of a lot. So I have a few on there right now, and I just wanted to kind of let you know there's a pesto recipe that I put on there, and then there's also a fresh roll recipe. Fresh rolls are elaborate. You got to do a lot of chopping or food processing or whatever, but it takes time. Pesto's easy, and I recommend it. I recommend trying it with your kids. I recommend having them do it at home. Also, bruschetta. I don't know if any of you have done that with your students, but super easy. Just getting the little, crostini rounds. You can even make them. Rub a little garlic on each one, and then put some tomato and basil with olive oil and salt and pepper, and that's it. And they love it. They love it. I've gotten tons of feedback with all the food stuff. I have people that say, my son loves kale now. It's his favorite food. He eats kale salad all the time. People have the green smoothie recipe on their refrigerator. They make smoothies every morning. The fried rice, the bruschetta, all of it. That's been my biggest give back. The students love the food. And that's what it's really all about. I also have,
sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm just noticing there's some really interesting questions coming in on the chat for you.
Okay.
And so maybe if you wanted to look at those, specifically about your cooking, what you're doing there, I think there's a lot of interest in supporting health right now.
Okay, yeah, so I see, what grades do I have? Parkside is a TK through 4th, and I teach everyone there. And then Brookhaven is the 5th through 8th, and I teach the 5th grade, and then the older kids, it's an optional garden club. So that's kind of how that works. Let's see, Google Forms. Okay, so that was let's see, is a cooking demo live? Or is it live? Well, so the cooking demos are usually live, but right now they're, recorded. And you can find them on the website. Maybe you'll share the website, or I could try to share it, but you probably can share it with everybody. Can you share your website to the group? Okay. Yeah, how do I involve everyone with distance learning? So that's once again, yeah, I don't know if they can get those resources. I don't know if they can buy that stuff. Parents have to help them. There's nothing much I can do about that. I know tomatoes are abundant right now. I know that basil's everywhere. Hopefully they can get their hands on it. I can't send them home with the ingredients really. Yeah, just putting the demo and just the inspiration. I think that's pretty much what it's about right now.
Yeah, I'm going to look for your website. I have it somewhere in my materials, and I'd love to share it with folks. So
yeah, if you can find it.
Laurel shared it with me. Give me 1 second. Sorry, I'll be looking at my computer. Aha, is this it from Lynn? Yes, okay. I am going to open this up and then I'm going to share my screen with y'all. All right, oh, it's so cute. Okay, here we go. Sharing screen. All right. This is it, correct? Show you?
Yeah, yep, this is it.
There you are, after all.
There I am. And then the weekly lessons is where I post, every week. So I did the spring roll, the fresh rolls.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Is this something you and your district would be comfortable and willing to share with outside of your district, like through Web School or Network?
I don't know why not. I mean, they don't own the website or anything. I've kind of created it, and I just think the more people that garden and eat healthy, the better. I don't think it should be just for our school.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And so that, yeah, I think it's fun. It's fun. It's a good way. It's just nice when you get a little bit of feedback, because, you miss the students and I don't get to see them. I'm just kind of putting it out into space sort of, but.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Little birds and the bees lessons right there.
That was a bug safari lesson, which was pretty fun, where you go out in your garden and find all the bugs you can find. And that's what we found in our yard.
Cool.
So.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I have. That's what I have to share today.
Anybody have any questions or comments before we? Yes, Laurel. Ziva.
Well, I was just wondering, in terms of just the tools for making a video, are you just using your iPhone, or did you have to buy any equipment, tripods, Like just any tips about that?
Yeah, so I'm super lucky. My daughter Lily, she's 12. She's great at videoing me. So it definitely helps if someone videos you. Whenever I try to set it up and it's on, it's just a little more cruddy, but she's great. And then I did get a video editing app, which she also showed me on my phone. And that helps because before that, you mess up once and you got to redo the whole video. But now I can just like cut pieces and put some cheesy music in the background if I want. And, and the kids like that. The more it's like fun and little music, they like it more. I mean, they do.
What's the app called?
I think it's like, let me look on my phone. It's iMovie.
iMovie.
I have an iPhone.
Yeah.
iMovie.
Okay.
Really easy to use.
Great.
So
Yeah.
using your iPhone.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you. So inspiring. Like makes me want to get out there and like make some beauty like that in the world. Any other thoughts or questions before we move on? Yes, Heather.
I'm just wondering, are you making your like food demo videos at home, or are you using like a kitchen classroom at school, or where are you recording them, I guess?
Well, the 2 videos that I made so far that I posted, I did at home because it was kind of during those smoky days and I just wasn't up for being outside in the garden. But I'm going to do some in the garden. I mean, I have a really good setup. I got a grant a few years ago and we made this amazing outdoor kitchen. So I have everything there and I probably will do some out there, but it doesn't matter. Do it wherever. I had my cat in the background in one of them. And just like, yeah.
Thank you so much, Mary.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say I also am making videos and I don't have it. I'm not allowed to like bring anybody out to videotape me. So I use my iPhone and a tripod. It's right here. They have like little attachments that can hold a phone or an iPad.
Oh, cool.
And I do that, and then I edit with iMovie like she does. But if you don't have anybody to help you, you can just like hit the button and run over and do your little video and then come back and you just have to cut it out with iMovie. But it makes it, it's super easy. And they have lots of how to use that program, like YouTube videos that you can watch to learn if you don't know how.
I would love to, we kind of talked about this already, but I'd love to see all the videos that people are doing and if you all are willing to share, because those are real priceless to share with your students. It's so much work, each one. And so making it really last. Heather, yes.
I'm also recording videos for my students. One of them was attached to that email that got sent out. Thank you for that. I was like, wow, there's me, cool. But all of my videos get posted to the Guerneville School website, my class page on Fridays. So every Friday I change my class page and revamp my class page for the week. And then those videos are posted on Friday as a part of that. And I leave up the previous week's videos just to make sure that everybody who wants to see them can see them. So if you're interested, you can go to guernevilleschool.org and see the videos that I post every Friday.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's amazing. Sandra, sounds like looking like you're doing some videos as well.
Yes, I really enjoyed listening to Shoivia's explanation of what she's doing because it sounds to me like it's very similar to what we're doing.
Nice.
I'm at University Elementary in Rohnert Park. I have TK through 5th, and similar to the spring experience where it was like I made videos, but there wasn't a lot of lesson planning because it was crisis times, right? But now in the fall, we do have a very structured curriculum that I'm developing, and we have a supply pickup every 2 weeks for our whole school, not just garden. So I get all of my teachers their two garden science kits for the 2-week period. So if I have materials that kids are using, probably not fresh vegetables, right? But craft materials or things like that, or diagrams, I'm prepping all of that. And then I have videos to go with every activity to explain to them like what the activity is. So we've made seed packets, we've gone on a seed hunt, a variety of things.
That's amazing. Where are you keeping all of these videos? Are you putting them in a classroom?
I have a Google site, just like she does. We have a Google site where it's all loaded. I threw the link there in the chat, and I think I emailed it just a couple days ago, so it's on one of the School Garden Network resource lists too.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. Lynn, did you have something you wanted to say?
I can't remember.
Oh, okay. There feels like there's a lot of questions about how to do these videos coming up in the chats, and I'm wondering if maybe we can put out a little call, and people who want to convene and get technical about this conversation maybe can organize something along those lines. Looks like that's good. Awesome. I want to talk and hear from Sue McQuitty, who's doing a different version of virtual teaching, and I think it's interesting to hear like how different people are approaching it. So if you have more questions about the video, let's like put them in the chat, and we can kind of collate, take those notes, and we'll reach out and kind of say, hey, if you want to do a gather independently and do a little how-to video, make a video online, we can do a little session like that. Okay, cool. Thank you. Sue, what are you doing?
Hey.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, that was awesome. Like many of you, I've done something similar. Our school handled it a little differently, but I will say the learning curve for figuring out how to get the video into a format that could be used online was a challenge, and I think it's a great idea to get a group together. I'm not an expert. I'm sort of just getting back into it after not really, having done much over the summer, of course, from last spring. But what we did at my school, worked at 2 schools, and they're both fairly large. So each of my grade levels was around 150 kids, and I teach between the classes that I did online were 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. That I'm continuing with this year. And what our school did was they took enrichment classes and put them together in one kind of classroom set. And so our teachers could access them, and through that, the students all had access. And how we organized it, and I thought this was brilliant because I felt connected with the school rather than feeling like I was hung out here. And we had ways through Google Classroom to see what students were being engaged in. And maybe I'll pull up a couple of those and just show you as I share screen in a minute. But through that, I was able to do, learn the whole video thing. And I did both Google Slides and videos and Google Forms to increase engagement with the kids. Because that's what I was like, I want these kids to feel like they can do this stuff, and I want to hear from them. So basically, I shared a document. This is just as kind of an overview of what we did. And I think what I'll do is I'll just share that right now. Let me go figure out, where's my share screen? There it is. Oh, Lori, Anne, can you enable me to share screen, or?
Try that. That work?
Oh, okay.
Does that work?
Let's see, share that one. Yeah, haven't done this in a while. Okay, so there's my screen. Let me see if I can move these things around. So this is the outline that I posted in the chat. And basically what I did moving forward to this year, it's a little different, but the teachers are the principal ones who are sharing the content that I'm creating. And I have 2 goals. Maybe I guess there's 3. One is to develop curriculum and that teachers can feel that they can use. It's real accessible to them. So I'm making lesson plans with specific instructions, and I'll show you an example of that. where I started though was number one here was making an outline of, okay, well, where do I see my lessons going? Because one of the things I've seen is that when you put together a lesson, number one, you don't have 45 minutes with these kids. You have maybe 10. And in this online learning environment, because our days are much shorter, I'm sure your kids at your schools are too. So they have to be kind of bite-sized. And that makes, I have to choose which part of those lessons that I've had before do I really want to, what's the main point, and how am I going to distill it in an engaging way for these kids to feel like they are accomplishing something and learning something, and get the whole picture without a whole lot of questions left hanging. Some of my goals with, so making a list of, sequential lessons. And I kind of use seasonality, like I think someone spoke about too, as a way to do that and engage with what's going on in nature now, that the kids can go outside and witness and engage with some of these lessons right in their own backyard. Another idea that I've always been a fan of is tying this to academia. So, English and history and math all being, I find I get a lot of teacher support that way if I am offering something that they can kind of use that satisfies another academic area. And another goal is that these activities be, project-based. I'm hearing teachers are hungry for examples of that. And also that these kids can engage with their families at home. So trying to help families feel empowered in their child's education at home in ways that they can help their kids learn. That's really useful. And so somewhat, what we all do is life skill training. So one of the silver linings I see of Shelter in Place is that, wow, we can create content where families can learn together and improve their healthy life skills as a result. Everything from tasting new fruits and vegetables to starting a garden and all that things that entails. So the second part, so kind of brainstorm that list. And let me see if I can find that. This is what my list looks like so far. I started out with, okay, this month I wanted to do a lesson on seeds. Well, that led me to just all different kinds of opportunities. And I felt like in order to choose, I had to get a lot of this stuff down on paper. So my lesson that I'm doing right now is about seeds that we eat. For best practices, I tend to reach out to other online resources. One of my favorites is Edible Schoolyard. And so I basically taking some of their ideas, paring it down again into that small lesson idea, and then creating an extra activity on how to make trail mix and make your own recipe with trail mix using seeds that kids and families could do together. And then I'm going to add something in for the older kids about growing their own sprouts. That leads to a lot of other seasonality things around how to, fall gardening and sowing seeds, reading a seed packet and seasonal gardening. And then of course you got to compost. So that leads to, you got to add compost in the fall. So that leads to adding compost. And then one of my most successful lessons I've had with the kids over the years is vermicomposting. So I actually brought the worm bin home and I've done videos around the cycle of the worm bin. And then I do a lot about nutrition education. That's where our garden program kind of where my funding came from for a long time. So I'm kind of building up recipes and tying them back to garden activities and plant processes. So that's kind of I did that in an afternoon because I just was like, I have to get all this down. So that is what I first recommend if you're going to plan out some bite-sized lessons, is get your thoughts down and put some resources together and see what comes up and what it looks like. Back to outline here. Gathering resources from your online websites or prior lessons, and then making videos or a slideshow to augment your written lessons for your teachers. Some examples of that. So the lesson I'm working on right now is seeds that we eat. This is what my lesson is. So we have both synchronous and asynchronous lessons at school. At our school, we have kids come for a couple days out of the week, and then they have assignments that they do on their own, which is asynchronous. And so I'm putting together a lesson plan that the teachers will use, and basically they can read most of this while they're on a Zoom with the kids, and then lead the kids in meaningful discussion around seeds and investigation. They're going to learn, tying it to food and nutrition, they're going to learn the different categories of seeds that people eat, and then get into, what do the kids like? I always find that to be a fruitful conversation and getting kids thinking. And then they have an opportunity. I'm going to do a how-to video about how to make the trail mix, and then they would watch that. That'd be the end of their lesson, and it should take probably more than 10 minutes, but maybe 15 or 20, depends on what the teacher wants. And all of these questions, the teacher can choose, can kind of choose how many of these they want to use. Then there'll be some photos and videos to go along with that, and then extra activities that the teachers can either assign or suggest, and that will be communicated to the students. So there's just some different things, a family seed hunt, whether it's outdoors or in your pantry, growing microgreens. So I'm going to add some things in like that. And so that will be my lesson, and then the teachers can use that either canned or they can adapt it to what they want. Let's see, where am I? So it takes a bit of work. I've spent about, honestly, 4 to 5 hours so far putting this together. And I think we've all experienced, and some of you've commented, it's putting the lesson together is so much longer than actually doing it. A lot more prep than it used to be if you were prepping to go into the classroom. Very, very different. It's been kind of draining, honestly. So then, sharing that with teachers and adapt or draft your own. And another thing, so in my school, so my situation is that there's so many students and they're only online for a couple hours a day, and all the classes have the same schedule. So I'm not able to go into 6 different 3rd grade classrooms at the same time. And I don't have the budget to even go into each one once a week, maybe once a month right now. So offering to be a class guest is what I can offer. Below there are just some of my favorite online resources. Harvest of the Month resource. I'll just quickly show you what these look like. So if you clicked the links, you would see this. This is the Harvest of the Month website. This is from the California State Health Department. Been around for many, many years. Actually, out of this, more than 10 or 15 years ago, came the Harvest of the Month tasting program. So if you go to you can go to Training Corner, Education Corner. When I download the monthly elements, okay, this may be too much for my computer to handle. Darn it, I wanted to show you guys this. Well, if you go to the purple button over here and download monthly elements, you'll see, let me just do it this way. Clicking on apples. There we go. It was just down there. So they have a lot of cool stuff on this website. One is an educator newsletter. So this is what I use as a teaching tool. There's a family newsletter that includes other recipes in English and Spanish. And then there's a community newsletter. School lunch, you could tie this to school lunch program because they have a kind of a menu frame that they can use. The educator newsletter has tons of wonderful resources on it. It usually starts out with a tasting. gives you not only nutritional facts, but other reasons to eat, nutritional information, and then it ties into different types of academia. So what is sugar, or a history, lots of great stuff on here. And this was really, when I started 14 years ago doing this kind of work, this was my training ground, and I love Harvest of the Month. It's been around a long time, and I'm glad the state still has it up there. Other resource, people who know me, there are things I've heard me talk about, this Nutrition to Grow On. This is actually an online book through CD, California Department of Education, and it is 4th through 6th grade curriculum. And just to give you a sense of the types of contents, there's sequential lessons. If you don't have a curriculum and you're teaching 4th through 6th, you can go here and you can just go through these lessons, and they're garden-based lessons, and there's usually a pretty nice nutrition component too as well. But I encourage you to look at that as a resource. You don't have to do it sequentially. I pull some things out of here, but I've used this one for years as well. Let's see, and then Edible Schoolyard, if you haven't gone there, they put together home classroom lessons. So they have taken their lessons that they had, this is, out of Berkeley, of course, they've taken their lessons and adapted them to home online learning. So I encourage you to look at this resource as well. They also did a bunch of trainings, and their videos are free and online. You can sign up for their newsletter, which is kind of fun, and be thrown in the lottery to be live on one of their lessons. So those are some resources. Let's see here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I know that was time.
Do you have, have you shared all of those resources? Maybe some of them we all already have, but maybe you could pop into that resource list and see if they're already there. And if not, add them.
I'll put them on the resource list. I shared on our chat this document that you guys see right now. And so there you can click on, if you open that document, you can click on these, but I will add them. I had forgotten about the School Garden Network resource list, but I'll add them in there as well.
Anybody have any comments or questions they want to ask Sue? I mean, I can't actually.
I don't see the link, Sue, that you said you sent to everybody. Is that just me, or does everyone see Sue's link that she sent?
It might be further in the chat. It's a document. It's a PDF.
And it's from you?
Me to everyone. Yeah. At 11:45, I posted.
That'll help. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's good.
I also.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. I just wanted to quickly highlight that I found Google Classroom to be really a great platform. If your school is using Google Classroom, a great platform to easily tie into the teachers' classrooms, but also create content that students can then reply to. I don't know, Anne, I have time to maybe, well.
I will talk about that as well, because that's a lot of what I'm doing. I want to really focus, any questions around specifically kind of the fact that you're creating the content and then the teachers are directing students to that content, I think is an interesting element of what you're doing, as opposed to Shwevia, who's doing content, and then I know that she did mention that there's a little bit of how are kids getting there, and kind of looking at that relationship between having the teachers teach the content that you're providing versus giving it to the students to then just kind of go and do on their own. And I think that's an interesting kind of a process to be using, especially for schools where bigger.
I make myself available to the lead teachers for questions, and can go into their weekly meetings and have a real conversation around those sorts of things. That makes it a little more, that makes our connection stronger.
Yeah. I want to make sure we get through everything. We kind of have a moment to chat at the end, and I'll be really brief kind of about what I'm doing right now with my school. And I have a much smaller school, so we are a K through 6, and we have one class per grade level. So in the spring, I started and I created a website, and kind of similar, like I just was like putting out weekly lessons, and then having the teachers direct the students to that lesson. This year they changed how they want enrichment to interact with the students, and so I'm meeting every week with each class on Zoom, and we're doing half an hour lessons for K1, 2, and 3 to 6 is 45 minutes. And then I'm using our school adopted a science curriculum last year called Discovery Ed. It's an NGSS curriculum. And so I'm taking a unit of life science per grade level, and I'm using it as a guide. My principal is like, don't like overthink this, don't go too deep, but use it as a guideline. And it's helping me kind of figure out content that I want to talk to the kids about and work with them. So I'm using some of their activities. I do have some consumables from the curriculum. We have workbooks. The online version of Discovery has videos, so I'm able to use that. And we're interacting primarily through Google Classroom. So I've created a classroom for each grade level, and I post assignments, materials, and we have our stream conversation there. And it's been good. I'm trying to not make it too academic, primarily because I want them to just have a respite from some of the like Zoom like book work that's being done. It's seeming to be like a default for most like math and literacy. So so it's been a challenge, but definitely it's taken a little bit of my shift away from like garden and nutrition and food literacy, and more into the realm of life sciences, NGSS, and what's come up to me also is like understanding climate and ecosystems and our natural environment. So that's kind of been the shift that we've taken. And I will say that like I hate having to do the Zoom with the kids, but I love seeing them. I love seeing their faces, and I love being able to be consistent with them. And part of being a garden teacher with them is I see them every year, whereas they now just moved up to a new homeroom teacher, and then I get to be the one that they're like, oh, but Miss Ann has that same obsession with like, you know, earthworms. She's still here, you know, she's still doing that. So I like that consistency and seeing the kids. And I know that people are not able necessarily to see their kids, but if you can pop in as a guest to their homeroom, then it feels so good to see them. And so that's kind of what I've been doing. And I have spent a huge amount of hours just organizing the materials, organizing the curriculum, and I have a master document. I'm trying to really get my head through this process of NGSS and how that really, like, I mean, I've looked at it a lot, I've talked about it a lot, I've taught about it, I've worked with it, but this is the first time I've actually used a specific curriculum and seeing how the curriculum expresses itself through those concepts. So it's been pretty interesting, and some of it's great, and some of it I'm like, this is just not how it's going to work for me. But I'm finding more and more I want to focus on activities. And one of the things that I decided to do this summer was to send home a nature packet for each student. So I have a little nature packet. I put a little sticker on the front that says ABS, go outside. They open it up, and the first sheet is a map of our regional parks. And then each class, grade levels, gets an identification sheet. So there's local butterflies, there's oak trees, there's beetles or bugs and different things. And I keep adding more and keep sending home every few weeks another ID sheet. And then I have a little journal that I put together and put it in there. And so kids can take it out and do that. And I've been asking them, my idea was like every week they're going to go outside and have a nature activity, and we talk about it in class. And then like after one day of school, the fires hit, and we've had like horrible smoke so far. So I've kind of had to be like, if you can get outside, do that. Maybe we focus more on these other kinds of things. But I'm hoping that once the smoke has gone for good, we can kind of do a lot more like nature activities, like outside exploration. And part of that is because I struggle with the idea of like, not everybody has a garden bed to plant something, and not, you know, and even the little activities I'm sending home with seeds and things like that. Some kids are like, my dad thought I didn't need that anymore, so he threw it away. And so it's just the struggle with organizing materials, holding it together. I have been like putting little Ziploc bags and putting something in it and then stapling it shut with a note on the front. And it's like, this is for garden class at this time, don't open, you know, and then be like, don't open in the classroom, don't open. So, but we've done things like models, like I sent home a little clay to model adaptations in an environment. And so So it's a lot, but it's been really interesting. And I'm kind of like you're saying, Shoivia, about like, wow, I'm really organizing my curriculum in a different way. I think it will be interesting to see when we do go back to the outdoor classroom, how this informs any shift in our teaching practices. Because it's forcing you to kind of, I don't know, forcing me to think a little more specifically about my lesson plans, whereas I could often default to like just the garden work and the joys and things that come up when you are out there doing garden work. So that's my little download of what I'm doing. And I don't know if anybody's finding or doing the similar thing, but if you have anything, so questions or comments about any of that, I'd love to hear or for you to share. Yes, Heather.
So for Guerneville, so I couldn't get to the garden for 2 weeks because it was under mandatory evacuation, and all of my students were also under mandatory evacuation. And I actually, like, first time I went back to the garden was a Monday, and I turned the corner onto Armstrong, because for those of you that don't know, Guerneville School is on Armstrong Woods Road, and started crying, obviously, because the fire trucks were everywhere, and it was a very emotional moment. And then got to the garden and had fully prepared to just like rip everything out and start planning for winter, and opened the garden door, and everything was like giant and just like going, I mean, it was insane. And I just like broke down at the garden gate. Like, I can't even believe that everything is alive after 2 weeks without water. Wow. Yeah. So, obviously we need a drip system. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But it was a really great, so the first lesson I did with my students when we were able to actually go back to teaching, because we didn't have any distance learning during that period, was that I really talked about the resilience of not only the plants, but how plants are so similar to our bodies and how we function in a very similar way to how plants function. And then I just started kind of building on that. And that's going to be my year with them, is like how our bodies relate to plants and how they're similar and how they're different. And, you know, I just did a video about, I tested my soil and did a video about soil health and soil quality, and my garden beds need a lot of love. And so my soil needs a lot of love. And so I decided that I talked about in the video how our bodies need nutrients and love, and like, you know, we have to keep our bodies healthy as well. And so I'm really playing into like how our bodies are very similar to plants, and that's kind of where my year is going to go, I think. The only thing for me is that I'm not sure, you know, there hasn't been any solid decision as to whether or not we're going back to school. And so I haven't quite decided yet for winter if I'm going to lay down a cover crop or if I'm going to just plant for winter. And I mean, I personally don't want to go back. I have a 6th grader who goes to Salmon Creek School. So when I think about that, I'm then exposing myself to students, and then she's exposing herself to students. And so we're like doubling the risk. So I'm just kind of like trying to figure out how to play out this next couple of months. I don't know if anybody else has any ideas based around that. And if you have kids in schools that are in different schools than you're in, how you feel about heading back to school, if that's a possibility, and being exposed to different students. I don't know. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah. My children go to the school where I teach, and I still feel very uncomfortable with currently what's happening. I don't, you know, I wouldn't have like a pod of 20 students or whatever, I would be intending to teach the entire school. So it's like a different relationship to the student body as an elementary school teacher anyway, as opposed to like a high school teacher who is another ball of wax. So that's kind of where I'm at. Shoevia, did you want to share?
Well, it's kind of a little bit off of the topic of the coronavirus stuff, but it was more about your share with the how you're sending home these little projects, like some clay and things like that. I'd actually like to find out what things you've sent home, like the little packages, because I want to do a little more of that. I know the excitement when they get the little DIY kit.
Yeah.
And one of them that I heard of, and it might have been one of you that did this, I don't know, someone told me about it, was an envelope that was kind of like mystery seeds, but basically it was the Three Sisters garden. It was corn and squash and beans. So it was kind of a little fun, like, ooh, plant them, you don't know what it's going to be. So that could be a fun one for the spring.
Yeah.
With those Three Sisters in there. Yeah, so if you could share those, that would be great.
Yes.
And then as far as like what you were saying about going back, my supervisor, she actually had a pretty good idea if we were to go back, how to reduce risk for garden teachers, was that we just see one grade for several weeks and then switch to another grade. So, you know what I mean? So then you're seeing maybe 2 second grade classes for 2 weeks and you can kind of keep track of which, pod you're in instead of it being 300 kids or whatever.
Yeah.
And I thought that's not bad. That would feel more comfortable with that.
Yeah. It's 12:20. Our gathering is supposed to end at 12:30, and I want to honor everybody's time. And so, but I did want to just have a quick, if people want to share, like, we would love to gather again soon, like maybe within the next month, and we're considering either doing a monthly or bi-monthly gathering of roving topics. It's intending to stay very informal, like this is. And so what do we want to focus on specific topics? Do we want to stay broad and just check in on a monthly basis and share successes and challenges? Is there, I know that people wanted to do a specific video making kind of how to, I was kind of thinking maybe that might be something separate that you kind of can collaborate on, maybe go into the Google form or Google group and be like, who wants to do this? And somebody just set up a Zoom meeting and do it that way. Like, one of the benefits of this Zoom stuff is it's annoying, but also it's a lot easier to get to in some ways. So we could do these more regularly. Any thoughts or suggestions?
I would just say that if people want to like jot down some ideas in the chat, just like kind of brainstorm some ideas you might want to talk about in the next virtual gathering, and then we can sort of see which ones bubble to the top and have, the interest. And that way in the last 10 minutes, we can, that's an idea.
Yeah.
Could I see by a show of hands, like who, I'm curious, again, my school garden coordinator volunteer. So I'm a volunteer, and I'm wondering if you could raise your hand and show me who's paid, who is a paid garden coordinator. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 of us who are not, but most are. Okay, that's interesting to me. 5. Okay. All right. All right. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. I'm looking at the chats here. Laurel says, I think that focusing on lessons that are seasonal and climate change would be good. Oh, we do have October 20th was our save the date for the next gathering. We may canvas a little bit and see if people like the daytime. I know my kids are in school right now, virtual school. So it's a little better for me as opposed to when they're out and then they're a little for me. But, we want to maybe change up the times for different schedules to be able to come. And you can always reach out and let us know if something's coming up. Let us know if something that you would really love to talk about that we haven't brought up yet. Tor, did you have something you wanted to, yeah?
Yeah, I'm just curious. I see Mike's in there. He's I don't know if I missed the introduction. So Mike's a classroom teacher, and I'm wondering from his perspective, if you're introducing some of these garden lessons as integrated lessons where you're not just making it a science lesson. And I guess, I think this is an incredible resource which you guys have, and just, especially in these times, for a whole lot of reasons. So I was just curious about the ability of these lessons being more than just a science lesson. There's social science, there's math, there's all kinds of stuff, reading, language arts, etc. If I was a classroom teacher, I'd probably just make this my topic and build around it, but I'm not. So curious for Mike and any others that just enhancing this and getting more partnerships with classroom teachers to bring this into their world. So the question is, Mike, how's that going?
Yeah. Well, I haven't gotten the word out to you yet, I guess. I have retired. I'm not in the classroom this year, but I am building this garden program. And a big part of that, I've been working very closely with the classroom teachers and have tremendous support from them. And in building the curriculum for this, I've been trying to make it as broad as I can. A lot of it focuses on science and the science standards and so on, but also they're enthusiastic about doing math lessons, about doing writing, language arts, history. So I'm building that in as we go. So yeah, there's a lot of hunger, I think, out there on the part of teachers for, not just a garden focus, but, a whole, looking at the whole academic, all the different curriculums and building lessons around those.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of Zoom fatigue also. So,
yeah. I think one of the,
excuse
me. One of the things that we talked about School Garden Network that was so fascinating to witness was in the spring when the shutdown started happening, how immediately people went to nature and wanted to garden. Like you're saying, like there was a short of seeds and plants, and all these people were putting in these gardens, and I was kind of like, this is what we've been saying like every year, like this is basic education, like knowing how to be food autonomous and independent and understanding our nature, and that it is really an integral part to our humanity of being connected. And so I feel like there's a real opportunity here with our school gardens, but it's also met with an incredible funding problem. So I would like to keep communication going from all of you and beyond, other people who are working in this vein of like, what's going on with funding? How can we support? We don't have a lot of funding, but we would like to figure out a way to access funding and funnel that to as programs as possible. And we want educators to be paid, and we want the value of that education to be really palpable in our districts. We want to reach administrators and kind of see like, this is what we've seen in our society, and how can we elevate this kind of education and integrating, like you're saying, it into the different, topics or subjects. So I think it's a really big conversation to just kind of sit around and have a Zoom happy hour and kind of talk about all these things, and also making sure that we're supporting through like the technical needs of like, how do you integrate YouTube into a Google Classroom? And one of our questions is, how can we create a platform that is super user friendly, that we can kind of search for and share all this incredible work that you all are doing. And so not only is it reaching your students, but each other, because we are a unique field of education. We're all so dedicated and passionate about what we're doing. And so it's nice to just be able to share and see all your faces. It is 12:27. Are there any little announcements or anything? I know Sue was mentioning that she wanted. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, well, a couple of things. One is I retired from one of my gardens in the summer at Calmacac in Windsor. It's a large school, large program. And anyhow, we've struggled to, I still volunteer there now. I volunteer just to get paid. But we struggled to, because of COVID, find people, number one, that can come to the garden, and most of that has to do with that their kids are with them all the time. And number two, that the school will allow. them to come. So I'm interested to know if anybody is having struggles getting their garden maintained. We have decided to kind of, overwinter the garden at this point, not knowing when we're going back to school. So we are going to be doing cover cropping and maybe planting some fall veggies because we have irrigation, and they might, broccoli and things like that. Kale might just be fine on their own. But that's kind of my questions. Like, are people, how are they dealing with, because of this lack of funding and lack of people being able to be on campus? Are there any light at the end of the tunnel, or are you having any administrative issues, with your principals primarily getting permission? And what's the remedy?
Carla?
I'm not quite sure if it's the remedy, but I'm at Proctor Terrace in Santa Rosa City Schools, and our superintendent came out and said absolutely no volunteers will be allowed on any Santa Rosa City School campus for the entire school year. However, our principal is trying to nudge them into treating the garden as a community garden space. And if we do have volunteers, it means they are not allowed to use a restroom. They are not allowed to access the campus in any way other than the garden gate. And it has not been approved yet, but he's trying. I was able to raise enough money to build a greenhouse, and it's sitting in boxes because it's just me being able to do anything in the garden right now. And we're waiting to hear back from the district to see if we can get volunteers to help me build the foundation and build the greenhouse. And he's hoping to do it before the rainy season starts and we just sit with a greenhouse inside of the hallway. But that's the route he's taking, to try and treat it like a community garden space. We'll see.
Yeah, that's sad. I know. Oh, well, I guess I don't feel so alone then. But because one of my ideas I had was like, whoa, in this group, perhaps we could, help rotate through some different school gardens if we had permission, and kind of have a little work group and get to know each other a little better and be able to, share the work and, over the rest of the planting season, be able to, visit each other's gardens and do a couple hours worth of work. But I've run into this just yesterday, was told absolutely not. No more volunteers. So.
Okay, Nancy, I see your hands up. It is 12:31.
Okay.
You need to pop off, then that's all good. I think that this would be a great conversation to reach out in our Google group. And for those schools that do have permission to have volunteers come in, maybe you can find those other people. And maybe if you don't currently have permission, you can talk to those districts and see what kind of measures they're using, and go to your administration and be like, here's the district that's doing this. Like, with that, maybe if we implemented this would work. So, let's, I think we need to close now, but I will say that October 20th is our, 20th is our save the date. Tuesday, right? Yeah. We don't have a specific time yet. We don't have a specific topic. If you ever want to put something out there, you want to present something specifically, want to do a training, if you feel like you have a good understanding of like how to do a video or technical stuff, let us know and we can chat with you and we can figure out the best way to make that work. We have been talking about maybe doing like a very specific food literacy thing, but I don't know that I heard that was like kind of on the forefront of people's minds today. So keep your eyes out. We're going to be doing a lot more newsletters, and again, communication is just going to really help us know how to best serve the whole community. And I think also we do keep talking about like doing some more like advocacy among the county broader. So if we understand a better picture of what all the schools are doing, it helps us know what we're asking the county to support in school gardens. And so the more information we can get from you, the more helpful it is for us to advocate for school garden support. Thank you everyone for your time. I know there's a huge amount of Zoom fatigue, so appreciate you being here. I love seeing all these familiar faces, and I wish we could see you in person, and hopefully we can do that soon. the series garden managers to find quite a few volunteers. Most folks are trying to maybe use, yeah, there's some great conversation and opportunity around ESCO is starting a teacher sharing meetup. Wonder if SGN connect with that somehow. Yeah, well, we need to reach out to SCO. Again, we are like really limited in our human resources and our financial resources. So anybody that wants to take on something under the umbrella of SGN, reach out and maybe you can help us support us with some of our projects. We love volunteers in that vein as well. So I think that's it. Anybody have any last minute, anything? All right, Nancy, did you want to share something really quick?
Yeah, thank you, Shorvia. Yeah, I do still have masks. Thank you. I'm glad you got yours.
Yeah.
Great. So
I love it. It's like, it's thick. You can put it around your neck.
I have a bunch of them. And if you just send me an email or fill out the mask survey, I get it, and then I'll send them to you. You know, maybe if you want to email me info@schoolgardens.org, mask in the subject line, and then if you need more than one, make sure to give me your address, tell me how many you need.
Yeah.
And if you could take a little
They're
selfie
cool.
and tag these folks, you know, I'm trying to cultivate a little relationship with them. Maybe they could be sponsors in the future financially and not just, you know, with product, but I'm glad they donated a lot, so I still have them.
Nice.
Thank you, Shwavia. Yeah.
Okay.
Nancy, yes.
I was just going to share quickly. Our site is different because we're a block and a half away from the school. We're in a county park, so we don't have any of the administration issues. So if people would like to come by and see the garden and talk, or, you know, I've had gatherings before. We have tons of room. We have an acre garden and a 5-acre oak woodlands. So we could, you know, really space out. I don't know how everybody feels about that, but I might have to talk to my boss about it, but that might be something
That could be a nice thing to do.
Yeah, to actually see people. I think we could really spread out and wear masks or do whatever we had to do to be safe. So anyway, I just want to throw that out there.
For volunteering that. We can follow up with you about the logistics around that.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Nice to see you.
All right. Yeah, nice to see all of you.
All right. Thanks for all of your hard work. Keep it up. Stay strong. You're doing great. It's really important what you're doing. We're all in it together. Bye.
Bye. Let's see.